Hi, and welcome to the Graduate School Slate webinar for the 2019 admissions cycle. I'm Sarah Jacobson, Assistant Dean for Admissions and Enrolled Students, and I'm here with Sean Rutherford, one of our admissions and enrolled student specialists. And today we're going to walk you through some general uses of the Slate admissions system. We will start by sharing some different login types for different users. Then we'll show you some general navigation in the system, really to get you moving around and see where things are. We'll quickly go over some basic reporting with queries, and then we'll explore a little bit of the Slate Reader, which is the Slate admissions application evaluation tool, and also where, as program users, you will recommend a decision for an application. To get started, we want to share some different logins for the Technolution Slate admissions site. So applicants have 3 different logins. To create an application, they'll use the first URL. For the second, they can check the status of their application just by logging back into the application and seeing if there's any updates. They can also see what's missing from their application and check their application status. If an applicant needs to make changes to their recommender information and they already have 3 recommendations submitted for that application, they can use this third URL. That's a little bit less common, but that URL is available. And then we have 2 program logins. So today when we log into the Slate system, we'll be going in through applynow.unc.edu/manage. And then if you have any faculty or any folks in your program who will only be logging in to evaluate or review applications, and you don't want them to sort of get bogged down with some of the additional functionality of the backend, they can use this 5th URL, the Reader Evaluator URL, to log directly into the Slate Reader and just to read applications. So for now, we will head in to our Slate application system. Again, we'll be using that 4th URL, the program URL, which is applynow.unc.edu/manage. Slate is single sign-on, so you don't have to remember an extra login. You'll use your onion and password and go ahead and log on to the system. So this is the Slate Backend. One thing on browsers, the preferred browser for Slate is Chrome, but Slate also works just fine in Mozilla and also in IE. So this is your Slate landing page. You'll always have sort of a welcome. You'll have some of the latest social media feeds and some sort of basic widgets here. And then across the top, you will have your different menu items for navigating Slate. From this page, you can do a basic search here from the search bar. So you can start typing in an applicant name, for example, and it will sort of search in real time. So it'll give you all the different records that come up with Sarah Jacobson. As you can see, I have many test applications. You can also search here by phone number. So if an applicant calls you, you can't hear the name, you don't hear much information, but you have caller ID and you can recall the phone number. You can also search by phone number. Make sure you include the dashes. You can also search by partial name. So anyone with the name Sean, as you type, additional records will be pulled up. So from the search bar, it's a great tool if you know exactly the applicant you want to go to. So if I type in my name with my mini test applications, and I choose one of these records here, it will take me directly to an application. We'll go through the application in a lot more detail in just one moment. But if you ever want to do a more advanced search, click on this first icon next to Slate, and it'll bring you to a search screen. And here you can enter you can see a little bit more detail on an application. So if you enter my name again, you'll see a little bit more information, including birth date and some application information. From here, you can also filter the population. So if you just wanted to see people with the name of Sarah Jacobson who maybe were pursuing a PhD, you can choose some filter items, which we'll see a lot more of also when we query, but you definitely have the ability to limit your searches here. It'll be real time, so you'll see your number of records. And from here, you can choose a record, click on it, and it will be taken to the application. One thing about a few tips for Slate, anytime you want to go back to the Slate main page, just click on this Slate here, and you'll go back to this screen. Another thing Every menu item in Slate, you'll see when you hover over it that you already have some probably recent records. So Slate will always keep track of the applicants you've recently visited, or if you're on a different menu, the reports you've recently visited, and those will be under your recent, so you can go quickly back to someone that you just pulled up. You also, if you have an applicant that you know you're going to work with frequently, you have the ability to pin different records. So if you hover over one of your recents and you see this pin here, you can click that, and then you have a pinned menu where you can easily return. Whenever you come to your records menu, any applicant that you pinned will be right there waiting for you, so you can easily navigate back without having to go through the whole search process. To go back to that main database, just click this icon or click Search Database, and you return here. And again, for a quick search, you can always use your pinned items, your recent items, or the search bar here. As we move into looking into the back end of the student application, your screen will at times look different than mine throughout this webinar, and that's because access is different. So the results that you see will differ from mine. You should only see applicants that you have access to see, or applicants that are within your program. So if your access looks different at any time, that is as to be expected. We also suggest that throughout this webinar that you can follow along if you have two screens. So you can have Slate open on one screen with the webinar open on your other. So you can kind of click through and follow along with us so that you can really get moving in the system and sort of follow along to see what we're doing as we do it. So we will now navigate to a student record. We could search for Betty. She's in our pinned. We'll pull up this test application. And this is the back end for the Slate application. You'll default to this dashboard tab, which is going to have some basic bio demo information. The UNC PID from Connect Carolina will appear here. This is a test application, so it's a little bit funky. You'll have some information like sex, birth dates, some address information, the program to which they're applying, and then this section here has some application status. So you can see the status of the application is decided, so that you know there's a decision there. We can see the decision in just a moment. You can see when the application was submitted, when it was started, when the decision was released, and what that decision was. And then sort of a visual representation of where the application is in the process. So we saw that this application was admitted. So you can see that where the application is in dark blue. Where it's been is in this kind of medium blue. And places it hasn't hit are in the lighter blue. Since this is a test application and is not following a necessarily normal trajectory, but this can help you see where an application is at any point. Here you have some address information, some contact info. If you want to email an applicant, you just click on their email address and you'll be brought to the email screen. It will automatically default to your email address, but you can change that. We do not recommend that you use UNC Slate support since that will reply to IT, but you can choose other, and you can use any address you want if you have like a general account for your program, or if you want to send out a welcome letter from your dean. You can CC, you can create test email here. You can do attachments, you can do photos, you can do a lot of different sort of email functionality here. It's just a normal WYSIWYG editor, so you can do different sources, you can add, again, graphics. For the purposes of this, we will just do a test email and we will send it. We'll pick that up in a moment. Back to this screen, under activity history, you're going to have a sort of visual representation of different activities that have happened in the history of the application. So you can tell when an email was sent, for example. You can tell when it was opened. You can tell if something was clicked from that email. So you can definitely look at different activity, look at when the applicant has logged in, when they've been around. You can see a little bit of academic history here. And this shows you when a transcript was uploaded. And then over here is just a little bit more general application information. This is a test record, so the test record is highlighted here. If it has a different tag or population, you would see that here. So the dashboard screen, again, is just an overview of the application. One thing to note In Slate, there are applicant IDs and there are also application numbers. The applicant ID sticks with the applicant no matter how many applications they have. The applicant ID is up right here in the right corner. And when we get to the application, you'll see the different application number. This is a way to identify an applicant. An application number will be a good way to identify an individual application. If an individual has more than one application, you will see multiple application tabs here. And again, you'll only be able to see applications that you are able to access. Moving along to the timeline tab, click there. Here you can see interactions that occurred with the application. So these are different emails that were sent. As you can see, the email that we just sent moments ago is now on this timeline. To see the message, you just click on the message. You can see the text of the message. You can also see when an applicant logs into the application. You can see if they open a message. You can see if they clicked on that message. And a lot of information here about different interactions. And then again, you can see sort of an overall visualization of like peaks in activity and spikes in activity here. Interactions is sort of a different way to look at the same information from the timeline. You can see a little bit more about a system interaction here as well. So the application was created, test emailing, different kinds of sources here. You can search for interactions. You can include or exclude different kinds of interactions from here. So you can always sort of filter and sort those down. If you want even more detail, you can choose the audit log, which will give you a lot of information about who has accessed an application and what they did. So here it was moved into the admit bin when it was going to be admitted. A reader accessed the application. You can see that I've had a lot of activity in the application, but this will give you a ton of information. Sometimes it will give you more information than you probably ever want, but it can be very helpful. If you've emailed an applicant and they claim they didn't get the email, here you can see if they've gotten the email, if they've opened the email, when they opened the email. Often there will be a tag as to where they were when they opened the email and what time. So it can be very helpful for different things like that. You can do a date range. So sometimes, depending on your application, there may be a lot of activity over several months. So you can always extend your range or narrow it. Refresh. You can see all these different kinds of audits and activities. Moving on, we'll go to the application tab. This is the actual application that includes information from the applicant when they were completing the application, and has uploads and shows you what's here, what's not here. And this is sort of where you'll probably be spending the most time on an application in Slate. At the top, you'll have, again, the program. You'll have the status of the application, when it was submitted, when it was last updated. The last updated field does not necessarily mean the last time an applicant updated the application, but could be the last time that there was a system update as well. The current bin refers to the Slate Reader, which we'll view a little bit later in more detail, but you can tell here where an application is sitting as far as an evaluation and review process. This will be the decision reason. Here are some PeopleSoft actions. So Connect Carolina and Slate will talk to each other to make sure that the same information is available in both systems. So you can have your PeopleSoft action here to see what will be in Connect Carolina. And they'll also, this is where your PID will be. This is a test application, so it's not complete there right now, but that's where your PID will appear, which is very useful for when you need to go in Connect Carolina to do registration stuff. You'll have the degree, if there is a concentration that's listed here, the term, the deadline for the application submission. Here's the Slate application number. That is directly attached to this specific application. Here we have some North Carolina residency information. This has been updated for the Residency Determination Service, RDS, which now does all campus residency determinations at the state level. So you'll have information here if the applicant has completed the RDS process. Now, moving to here, we have the checklist. This is also visible to applicants, and they can see exactly what is in on their application with the green check and then what is missing. So official GRE score, and they have not replied to their offer of admission. This gives you a really quick check to see if an application is complete or not, and can also let you see what information is available to the applicant. So anything that's green is in, and you can see sort of that it's been received and then the date. And anything red is still outstanding. The materials section is materials that have been uploaded to the application. So you can click on these. It'll open in a new tab, and you can click display to see that in a larger view. Of course, again, this is a test application, so this is not what you'd expect to see for a personal statement, but it's how you view those items. CV your resume, you'll have transcripts here. Decisions will be where any decisions have been made on an application, so you can see the status of any decision. You can tell when it was released. You can tell when the application was received by the applicant, who released the decision. If you click on the decision, for any decision here, you can also expand preview to see the letter that the applicant received. Applicants and programs can also download a PDF of these letters if you want to save one for your file, or if an applicant needs their application for any reason, they can get it from there. Because we momentarily left this system, we'll go right back. There we are. And we also had that open in 2 tabs. So we didn't lose our initial tab. That is the letter of admission, or the decision letter. If an applicant has replied to their offer of admission and paid their enrollment deposit, those will also show in this decisions column with the same information. Here you can see different activities that occurred with the application, so you can tell when recommendations were received, when the scores were received, if any information was uploaded, and you can see the user attached to that as well. A few more things to point out here. We had this GS program action link. This is where program users can go to either request to withdraw an application at the applicant's request. That's before a decision has been made. You can request to defer an application here, or you can also request to reverse a denied decision to an admit. So only the options that are available for an application based on its status will be available. So this application has been admitted. So now that it's been admitted, the application can't be withdrawn. And since the application was admitted, not denied, only the defer options available appropriately. You highlight the option you want to choose. Some basic information is here. And then you'll get the deferral instructions. If you want to defer the applicant, you click the box there. This is the term that you would like to request the deferral to. Make sure you follow the instructions here and submit. That deferral request will then go to the graduate school for us to process. And you can see right here that the request that I just submitted now shows in the activity. So you can show that it was submitted. And then once that deferral is processed, the deferral decision letter would go out and it would show in the decisions here. You can also upload information to an application on an applicant's behalf. Once an applicant has submitted their application, they have the ability to upload an updated transcript. So if an applicant submits their application in October, for example, and they want to show you that they have an updated transcript with their fall grades, they have the ability to upload an updated transcript after submission that will show in the materials here. You can also, at your discretion, at your program's discretion, decide to upload other materials on an applicant's behalf. So if you are a program who chooses to do that for applicants, click Program Uploads. And you can see different upload options. So make sure you choose the right category, and that will make sure that it's listed correctly in the materials and in the reader. So you can choose to upload a resume on behalf of an applicant. If you have a recommendation that you're uploading for an applicant, please make sure you include the first and last name so we know who to update. You can submit any documentation here, click Submit, and it will show right away in this materials section here. That is a very basic overview of this part of the application. Over here on the right side, you'll have different menu items. So some of these are not as pertinent for the graduate population, but you have a financial aid link. There should not be any information there since we don't have permission, but if you click there, that's what you'll see. Workflows will again show you this visual representation of where the application is in the process. Portfolio, again, is not something that we use for most graduate programs. Read application will allow you to see the actual pages of the application. This will take you into the Slate Reader, where we'll be using a lot later on in the webinar. But if you click here, you can read this individual application. So you can see here, this is a test record because we saw that tag on it earlier. But these are the actual pages of the application and what the applicant submitted. You can drag and drop through. You can use the arrows. The sections here that are dark have been completed, and those that are grayed out are either not required or not completed for this applicant. We will be back here. We'll go into the Slate Reader more, but we just kind of X'd out and went back to our application since it was opened in a new tab. Again, you will probably see different menu items here than me, which is fine. If you want to download a PDF of this application, click here, and that will give you the option to download the complete PDF, which includes the whole application as the applicant submitted it and all uploaded materials. Or you can do admin applicant PDF, which is just all the information that the applicant put in the application without any uploaded materials. To not duplicate, you can always come in and hit clear and then reinsert just one part. And your settings here will be saved. So next time you go in to download a PDF, you will already have admin applicant complete PDF chosen for you. If you want to change that decision, clear and insert. North Carolina residency information is available here, and some test score information here, if there were test scores attached to this application. Moving over to the Profile tab. This is where Slate displays information in different ways. So you'll see a lot of information from the Dashboard, Timeline, and Application tabs on this Profile tab. So again, some basic bio demo information with some contact information and some academic history, some bio, some contact and address information. You can see their educational history under schools. You can see scores under the scores. You'll see self-reported. If there are official scores that have matched the application, you'll see another line that will say verified. So anything verified is official that came over from Connect Carolina. And then different information that the applicant put into their application. And then materials, the final tab here, will again show you those materials that we saw on the application tab, just in a different view. So you can view all the materials here. So that's the basic overview of the backend application and the different tabs of the application in Slate. We will head back to our Slate homepage. Now we're going to do some basic querying. Your second menu item is your Queries and Reports tab. Again, you'll have your pinned and recent queries, but for this, we will go into the main queries page. So you can either click the icon or click queries here. One thing to note is that queries are not changing data when you're just pulling the information. So you're just pulling a report of information. You aren't going to mess anything up. The queries in Slate have lots of options, and so you can do a lot of stuff with them, and you can use them to take action. But don't be scared of the queries is what basically we want to. That's the main point we want to share with you. This is going to be your main queries menu. You hopefully will not have near as many queries as me, but all the queries that you have access to are listed when you head to this main page. Please note you should always come in and click Include Shared Queries, because there are some queries that we have created that you have access to that might be very helpful. We will start actually with some shared queries to let you see what exists, which may even be enough for you. So everyone should have access to the General Admissions Report. There's going to be probably some different flavors. You shouldn't have as many here, but you should have General Admissions Report, General Admissions Report More Filters, General Admissions Report Simplified. And we'll go into just the General Admissions Report. So highlight that and click. And this is going to bring you to a screen where you can set some parameters. So for application status and term, any of these items that say pinned, if you click those, you can change sort of the parameters. So if you want to only look for applications that are in progress or haven't been submitted, click Awaiting Submission and save. And then you can sort of narrow down your selection right from this screen. If you want to only look for in-progress applications for a certain term, so we'll just go fall 2019. You just come in here and click your selection. If you want to multi-select, you hold down the control button and you can multi-select. So we'll do fall 2019 and spring 2019. Oops, not sure why that happened. We'll click save. So you can see there, we just chose spring 2019 somehow. We don't want to look at test records, but we can change that to in a different way later. If you want to look for a certain major, you can pin the major that you're looking for. And you can also pin round is sort of population in Slate. So from here, just click run and you can see the information that you can already pull without having to write a query or really edit anything in detail. This general admissions report includes almost every data point from the application. So it's very comprehensive. You'll have all your test scores, you'll have educational history, lots and lots and lots of information. If this works for you, this might be the only query you ever use. Once you have the query the way you want to see it at first, you'll have different output options. It will always default to Excel spreadsheet. So if you want, you can go ahead and export this to Excel. You can filter, you can sort it. Then it's gone from Slate and you can do anything you want with it to pull any data that you'd like. And then you can come back to Slate and you can just change the parameters with your pins, or you already have your information that you need and this will be your only query. To return back to any query, you can go back to your main query page, hitting all queries, or you can go back to the general admissions report, the query you're working on. A few things to note. The matching rows will always update live. So when you're working on a query, you can get a feeling just from this main page if you're in the ballpark of pulling the sort of data that you want. We'll narrow this down a little bit more and give it a break a bit. And our real-time matching rows will update. So you can tell, again, it went from 23,000 with that one click to 159. And if we run this, it should happen much quicker because it's still pulling a ton of data for these 159 people. Here we are. So from your output screen after you run a query, if you click the drop-down, you'll see a bunch of different options. If you'd like to send an email to those that you selected in your query, you can choose deliver mailing. You also can download PDFs of these, PDF report, PDF document export, and we'll show you some more actions with what you can do with these queries in just a moment. So that's your general admissions report. Same basic idea for any shared query that you have access to. We'll head back to our main query menu and we're going to write a basic query. You can also search your queries here if you ever want to. If you have a big long list like I do and you just want to search, you can do any sort of search there. You also have folders. If you choose to organize your queries in folders, you'll have folders over here on the side. We now are going to write a new query. To show you exactly sort of how to find the information that you're looking for. You can do a quick query. You just kind of want to pull some information really quickly and you don't want to name your query. You don't want to save it right then. You'll always have the option to do that even if you go the quick query route. But for the purposes of the webinar, we'll go through the new query option and sort of go through all the steps. So we'll click new query and we will name our new query. If you want to put it in a folder, you can choose an existing folder or you can choose other. And you can create a new folder right here. You can even create a subfolder if you'd like and create many different ways to organize. So we've now named our query. Do not click share query with other users here. This shares with every Slate user on campus, inside the graduate school and across the entire campus like the med school and the law school. Do not click share here. We'll go over other sharing options later. So click save. And then you now are going to start creating your query. So the first thing that you'll want to do or work on your exports and your filters. Your exports are going to define the information that you want to see on the population that you're pulling. So, and then the filters are sort of how you narrow down the population you want to see. I often think of filters as like it sort of exports as the columns of an Excel spreadsheet, and then your filters dictate who shows in the rows. I often start with the filters. That lets you, because you kind of go into a query knowing who you want to see and what you want to look at, and then later we can decide what we want to see. So to choose your filters, again, this is how you narrow and isolate your population. The total number of applications that you have access to will always show here, and you'll see that number will change as we go along. So click filter, and here you can choose different ways to narrow down your population. So if you want to just pull a certain degree, if you're in a program that has multiple degrees, click degree, continue, and then you can choose which degree you want to see in your query. So we will just choose Master of Science. Again, you'll see your matching rows of people you have access to automatically change as you sort of go through these filters. It's thinking there. And then you can choose more filters. So you can choose Master of Science by term, for example. And so you can just say fall 2019. You can also choose not in here or in whatever options you want. You can choose to see just applications that are complete or applications that aren't complete. So we just want to see Masters of Science applications for fall 2019 that are complete or not. We'll say yes. Or you can continue to add filters as much as you desire. Once you have your filters, if you ever want to delete one, just hover and choose the X. Or if you ever want to edit, so let's say instead of Master of Science, because we're getting 64, we want to change that degree. You can click edit and you go back into your menu. You can multi-select again, or you can change, and we'll just say we want to do Doctor of Philosophy rather than Master of Science. So click your new selection, click save, and it will update your query and your filters here. Once you have the population that you desire, you can then go into your exports. And now so you have the data, and now you're going to tell them like what you want to see on these records. So click export. And you have almost every option that exists in the Slate system here. So we highly recommend that you use this search bar. So if you want to pull a report of applications, you want to see their name. So you type in name. And let's say you want to see their citizenship. Start typing in citizen. We can say citizenship status. If you want to see biodemo information like race, you can choose that. If you want to see term, you can type in term. As you can see, there's lots of different options, so make sure that you try to select the one that works for you. So if you're not in the med school, you wouldn't want to choose an AMCAS term. If you have a question about which export or filter to choose, always feel free to email grad admissions. So we'll save our choices here, and you can see the different exports that we chose. Again, you can delete, you can edit, you can drag and drop to change the order. And then we can run this and we can show you that you've written the basic query, and then we'll go through a lot of the more specific options. So we're going to run the query we just wrote. You can see this here. So there again, you can choose to export it to Excel. You can bring it to an email. You can do a PDF. Here you can already see exactly the query that you just wrote. If you want to make some more changes, head back up to the top to choose Test Friday. And we can go through a few of the other options you have. So if you ever want to edit the name of a query or delete a query, click this large edit in the top right. There you can change the name. You can change where you keep it. If you want to archive something so that you don't automatically see it, it won't delete it, but you have the option to archive it so it doesn't show in your list unless you choose it. You can do that here. You can also delete a query that you've written here. Edit query here will bring you back to the screen where we built the query, and there's a few extra things we want to show you. So if you ever want to run a query and you only want to see the new rows that have been added since the last time you ran it. So let's say you run a query for submitted applications for your program once a week, and you don't want to see the whole list every time. You just want to see the new folks who've been added. You can do that from Edit Properties. So you have the option here to just retrieve only the new record since it was last run, for example, and some different options on that menu. You also here can share. So if you want to share with certain users in your programs, you can choose Add Grantee. The type will be User. You can give different users different options, and all you need to do to add them is just type their name, and if they have access to Slate, they will appear. You can choose to just let them display the query or also let them edit the query. And then if you want to add more, you just continue to add users from this list. And you can come back here and return here anytime. You can edit their permissions as well. So now those people also have access to the query that you wrote. If you ever are building a query and you want to preview the results without running it, you can do that here. And it'll give you a quick view of what your query looks like. You also can choose to sort a query different ways. So if you want to sort by citizenship status rather than last name, for example, you can do that here. You can also choose multiple sort items. So you can start with citizenship status and then choose term, for example, and that will sort your query by those options. That is a basic query. If you head back to your queries menu, you'll see the query you wrote in your main list. You'll also see the folder that we created, and there is the query that we created. So we're going to go back into this and show you quickly how to make a very minor change and copy the query. So if you go back into Edit Query, oftentimes you might want to have a similar query base for many different queries. So by saving a copy of the query, you can do that without having to recreate the query from scratch every time. Some good examples of this are for programs that want to filter by area of interest. So you can write the same basic query, but just change the area of interest that you're looking for. Or if you want to use the same query from term to term, you can just change the term that you're looking for each year without having to totally rewrite the query. So we have our basic query here, and if we want to just make us like one or two changes, the best way to do that is to go to Save Copy, click there, and then you can name your new query. Just add something so that it's a new query. You just created another query from that first one. So you want to make sure you change the name. You can locate it at the same place. You can change where you have it located. We're going to click Copy. And now this is our new query. So this is Test Friday SEJSPR. And we, let's say, just want to change the term. So then you can edit. Instead of fall 2019, we will look for spring 2019. Our matching rows have already changed. Click Save. And then if you go back out to all queries and go into your folder, you'll see that you now have two queries there. So just with a few clicks, you were able to write a whole new separate query with new criteria. And that is basic querying. We will now move on to the Slate Reader. We'll head back to the Slate main menu, and now we'll quickly go through the Slate Reader, which is the Slate evaluation tool. It's your third icon here, which we'll click. Again, pinned and recent, we'll go to the main reader. Nothing we're about to tell you is prescriptive. We're going to tell you different ways to use the reader and some basic functionality, but programs can use the reader in any way that makes sense for them. So if your program only wants to use the reader to recommend decisions, that's fine. If you want to do all of your evaluation in the reader, that's great, but do not think that there's any sort of set way that you must interact with the reader. So we've gone to the Slate Reader. One thing to note about the reader, if you're ever in the reader and you want to get back out to where you were, just click the main Slate. We'll use that a lot. When you first enter the reader on the home button, you will see some basic ways to navigate, which are very helpful. If you move down to Browse, you'll see the bin structure that we saw on the application side, and now this is going to be for all the applications that you have access to. So it will give you a very quick overview of how many applications you have in each different phase of the application process. So what in the in-progress applications are those that have not yet been submitted, so those are still being worked on. You can't take any action on those. You can see some basic information on those applications, but you can't actually move them to any of the recommendation bins. Applications that are in awaiting payment have been submitted that are not yet paid. Again, those applications are not eligible for review. Awaiting materials, you probably will not see any applications hit that status, or if you do, it'll be very rare. Those are missing a transcript, and a transcript's required for submission, so you shouldn't see much here. These are only test applications that we're using to test the system that are existing in that 6 there. Applications, once they move over, so the moves from the in progress to awaiting payment Those are automated. You won't move any applications through this column. Once applications move to the application review column, that's where programs can begin to move applications and take action on them. That's where we'll be using today. So if you go in to your program review first read bin, these are applications that are submitted and paid and that you have access to. You can always add filters here. We'll go back to browse to see that grand overview. If you want to just look at a subset of your applications, you can always use filters to do that. Because we're doing a webinar, I'm going to just look at test applications for this part to keep the numbers down and make it a little bit easier to look at. So we're just going to pull test records for all of my different bins here, and we'll show you how to look at an application. From the Program Review First Read tab, you can see different applications and where they are. So we will open an application. You can always open the pages of an application by clicking on the display copy here. That will open up the application. Again, you can use the arrows, you can drag and drop, and these are at the pages of the application that the applicant provided. Again, things that are black are here. Anything grayed out has not yet been submitted or is not required. From any application, you can always hover on the name here and click. And there you can email from the reader. You can see some basic information. You can go look up the application from that back end. That'll open a new tab, so you can always go right back to the reader. You can look at materials reports. You can edit and download a PDF from here. So those are the pages of the application. Clicking Slate will bring us back to our main menu. If you are a program who only wants to look at complete applications, for example, you can always go to Complete Application Grad School Preset, and then only your complete applications will show. That's really helpful for some. So if you ever are in here only want to look at complete applications, you can pull that complete application preset from the browse menu or from any individual bin here. And your numbers will update. Because we're only looking at test applications, it might be a small number. So from the browse, you can go into any one of your bins. So we'll go into Program Review First Read, and we can show you how to move an application through the reader. So again, you can open any application that you want to look at, or you can also highlight an application here by clicking, and you can multi-click if you want to choose more than one. So we'll open an application or click it to add it to our queue. Adding an application to your queue does not remove it from the bin. It doesn't do anything to the application. All it really says is that I want to do something with this application. You're just sort of claiming that you're going to take some action, but other readers can have the application in their queue as well. It doesn't take it away. I like to think of it kind of as like a Netflix queue. So again, you can also do this from when you have the application open, the pages. You can add to queue through here. It will say yes. If you go back out to the main menu, you can see what's in your queue. So when you add an application to your queue and click on it, you can remove it, or you can review form send to bin. That just means that you want to do something with the application. So if you click there, you can move the application through the reader. So you can add a reader and you can put it in someone else's queue. So if you have a reviewer that you want to look at this application, you can do that here. Again, you just type their name and it'll go, and you can say, hi, look at this, and leave notes. You also can move an application to different bins here. So the current bin will show as Program Review First Read. You can move this one to the Reader Committee bin, for example, if you want your committee members to complete a review form. If the application has been reviewed and you're a program that does not do your reviews in Slate, you can also move this to a recommended decision bin. So you could say Program Deny or Program Admit from here as well, and that would allow you to complete the checklist. For the purposes of the webinar, we will move this to Reader Committee. Click Send. And then if you go back out, you'll still be in your queue. You can see that the application that we just moved has left our queue because we've taken an action. We'll go back to Browse. So for the purposes of the webinar, we'll move to the Reader Committee bin. So now we'll go into the Reader Committee bin. And we'll see the application that we just moved there. And we'll pick it up. We'll open it. We'll add it to our queue. We'll say yes. And then the Reader Committee bin, if you have applications here, if you click Review Form Send to Bin, you can have your faculty members complete a review form here. So we will do the Reader Committee Review Form option. And here, your committee members can page through the application and all the information and can go ahead and rate an application and give notes. They can choose different. They will keep a tally for you. You can recommend a decision to other reviewers, total rating, and then you can send. And we'll see. If we go into that application again, you can see in green here that a review form has been added, which is what we just did. So if you're ever in Slate and you see in the Slate Reader and you see green, that means something new since the last time you came in, and then you can go to see what the new item has. So that's how your readers can evaluate, and so you can have multiple review committee reader forms from multiple reviewers here. If you go back out, if you then know that your reviewers have done with the application and you're ready to make a decision on it, you can add it again to your queue. Right, so then you can then move it to review complete because you're done with the review. Send. And then you'll see that application hit your review complete. And then from here, you can recommend a decision. So you'll add to your queue. Review form send to bin. And instead of choosing a reader, or you can choose to either admit or deny the application from here. So we'll go to Program Admit, and here you'll see your admit checklist. So you never have to navigate away from the application. You'll have your test scores and your educational history here, so you can easily see from the transcript that will be in the reader whether a GPA meets standards. If you ever click no, it will bring up a required justification box. Letters of recommendation will also be shown here, so you can choose that yes, they have 3 recommenders. You can determine whether the GRE scores meet recommended minimum guidelines and click yes or no. If you're a program that does not require the GRE, you can click not required. And then from here, you can enter a justification if you need to for anything that says no. You ask to admit the applicant. You give the reason, so either meet standards or does not meet standards. If you're a program that awards master's degrees en route to doctoral degrees, you can choose this box here, but only choose that if all of your admitted applicants will earn a master's degree en route to a doctoral degree. And then at the end, program admit should still be chosen here. And you can click send, and you will be recommending. Oops, I didn't do my application, my justification that was required. So you will be locked out unless you do that. And here, you'll send this to the graduate school so that we can process and review your admit recommendation. So you've seen now how to move an application that was submitted and paid from program review first read to reader committee, where your reader and committee members can complete the review form. And then you can move to review complete if you choose. And then from there, you can choose any sort of different program action. You can also choose the different program recommendations from the program review first read bin as well if you want to skip the reader committee bin. You also can add applications to an internally managed program waitlist, and you can also add applications to the interview bin if you want to interview some of your applicants before recommending admission or recommending a decision. You cannot move any applications from the reader into this decision column. These are applications that have been reviewed by the graduate school and released for decision. If you even attempt to move directly here, you'll be locked out. And also, you wouldn't be giving the system enough information. Navigate back to the main part of the reader, just click Slate, and you are back to your home page. You can always see recent applications by going here. You can see your queue by clicking your queue. If someone has added an application to you as a reader, you can also see that when you go to your queue. And you can see notes. You can annotate applications using the Slate Reader. You can always go right back to the reader by clicking that third icon there. The reader is great for moving one application through, and it's how you will need to put individual decision recommendations on every one of your applications. You also can use a query, though, to add applications to different bins that you have access to, and also to add different readers. So we'll navigate back to the queries. And again, we'll use that Test Friday query that we wrote. So we're going to run this query. For your output, choose bin and export. And from here, you can set the bin. So you can put everything in, let's say, the reader committee bin, because you know that you've isolated this population and you want your readers to look at these. So you can select all, you can select one, you can select the other, you can have a query of 400 and can select 200 of them. So you can move everything to one bin. Again, you can't do decision recommendations from here, but you can move down your review column bin, the program review bin or column. You also can add readers. So if you want to add readers to these, start typing a name, and you can put applications, one, all, from a query into different queues. So this is a great way to move more than one application at a time through the program column of the reader. You can move through the column, and you can also add readers, or you can just do one or the other. And then once you hit update, it will actually move those applications through the reader. So this is a way to access the reader from the query menu. Finally, one more item to show you from the queries menu that also interacts with the reader. If you go to your main query menu, if you ever want to back out of your folder, just click all folders. We're going to quickly create a new query just as an example. Name it. If you ever want to write a query that will be available to you in the reader. So if you're always in the reader and you only want to pull for one of your degrees with a certain criteria, choose the reader folder when you're creating your query. Click save, and then go ahead and write a query. So we'll choose term of fall 2019, and we will choose degree of Doctor of Philosophy, and we will choose major in biological and biomedical sciences, and we'll look for applications that have just been submitted. So if you ever want to look for submission status, type in application submission status, or application submitted. We'll choose this one, and we'll choose for just submitted. You don't even need to do any exports here, but we'll do some just because we're learning. We'll do name. Submitted. It's easy. So we've written a query. It's called reader test. You can go back to here. But also now, when you go to your reader and you go to browse, like earlier we showed the application complete status for the graduate school, you'll now see your reader test query available. So you can choose that, and it will update your bins for just that criteria. So just what we said. So term, fall 2019, the degree we chose, the major we chose, and the submission status that we chose. You can edit from here as well. You can edit from the query menu, but that will update those. So some programs that have more than one degree within them sometimes just want to look at one degree. So they can have a query for each one of their degrees here. And that's an easy way to manipulate your data within the reader. If you ever have questions about Slate, please email gradadmissions@unc.edu for sort of policy and applicant questions. And for technical questions, UNC Slate support@unc.edu. Thanks so much.